No one in the alien city wanted her. She was called Zureya, once the daughter of a strong war general, now nothing more than a burden. Her legs did not move. Her body was weak. To the proud and powerful Zorak race, she was useless. Even slaves were supposed to work. But Zureya could not. She was thrown away like trash. For years, she lived in a small, cold room in the palace. No one spoke to her. The guards joked that she was already dead, but Zureya was still alive. Her heart still beat. She still dreamed. And then, a human arrived. His name was Jack Calder. He was tall, strong, and from the death world called Earth. The Zorak Council had invited him as part of a new peace deal. They did not trust humans, but they feared them. They wanted to look friendly, so they planned a cruel gift. At the final meeting, the Zorak king stepped forward. He raised his hand and smiled with sharp teeth. "We Zorak do not give gold or land," he said. "We give what is rare, a life." Guards rolled in a floating chair. Zureya sat in it, silent. Her arms were thin. Her long silver hair fell across her face. She looked tired and broken. "This is our gift," the king said. "A girl with royal blood. She is yours now." Jack froze. He looked at the girl, then at the king. "What do you mean she is mine?" he asked. "She is a burden to us, but perhaps she will serve you. Or amuse you," the king said with a cruel grin. The Zorak around him laughed. Jack did not laugh. He walked up to the girl. Zureya did not move. She looked at him with dull eyes, as if already knowing what humans would do. More pain, more shame. But Jack knelt beside her and asked softly, "What's your name?" Zureya blinked. That was the first time someone had asked in years. "See Zureya," she whispered. Jack stood up and faced the Zorak king. "I'll take her, but not as property. She comes with me because no one here seems to care what happens to her." The room went quiet. The king frowned. "You speak like a fool, human." "Then call me a kind fool," Jack said. "She deserves better than this." Without waiting, he gently wheeled the floating chair toward his ship. No one stopped him. As they left the palace, the guards murmured behind him, "The human is wasting his time." Zureya sat silently, unsure if this was another trick. Her heart beat faster, but she said nothing. Inside Jack's ship, he showed her a clean room with soft lights and warmth. It had a bed, a small screen, and a window to space. "You can stay here," he said. "There's no cage, no chains." Zureya looked around. "Why?" she asked. Jack shrugged. "Because you deserve to be treated like a person." Zureya stared at the stars outside the window. "No one has said that to me," she said. Jack smiled. "Then they're all wrong, that night." Zureya lay in the warm bed, her hands shaking. She whispered into the darkness, "Why didn't you leave me?" From the other room, Jack replied, "Because you're not trash, you're just not understood." Zureya closed her eyes. For the first time in many years, a tear ran down her cheek. But it was not a tear of pain. It was the beginning of something, new hope. Zureya did not speak much. She sat in her chair most of the time, looking out the ship's windows at the stars. She made no sound, no movement, like a ghost floating through space. But she was not a ghost. She was alive. Just quiet. Just tired. Jack Calder didn't push her to talk. He gave her space. Every day he made her food, even though she ate very little. He cleaned her room and adjusted her chair to make it more comfortable. He fixed a heating system just for her. And every night, before sleeping, he read a story out loud, even when she didn't respond. Zureya would just sit, watching the stars, but her ears listened. And slowly, something inside her began to stir. One afternoon, Jack brought her a gift. It wasn't anything fancy, just a simple cloth blanket, handmade, soft and blue, like Earth's oceans. I thought you might want something warm, he said. Zoreya took it slowly. Her hands trembled as she touched the fabric. Why? She whispered. Jack tilted his head. Because you looked cold. She stared at him for a moment. Then she looked away. Thank you, she said very quietly. Time passed. They traveled from one system to another. Jack worked on trading goods, repairing machines, and sending messages to Earth. Zoreya remained quiet, but she started doing little things. She began brushing her hair. She asked him once what Earth looked like. And one day when Jack dropped a tool and cursed under his breath, Zoreya laughed. It was soft, just a small breath of a laugh. But Jack noticed. You laughed, he said. She blinked, surprised. I didn't mean to. No, it's good. You should laugh more. That night she stayed up late, watching him from her chair as he worked on his ship engine. She didn't say anything, but her eyes followed him, closely, carefully. Then, one night it happened. Zoreya screamed in her sleep. The sound echoed through the ship like a wounded animal. Jack rushed to her room. She was thrashing in bed, her eyes wide but not awake. Sweat covered her forehead. No, don't take them. Zoreya, it's okay. Wake up, Jack shouted. She opened her eyes, gasping. Her hands grabbed at him like a child lost in the dark. Jack held her gently. It's okay. You're safe. You're not there anymore. Zoreya was breathing hard. I saw it. I saw the fire again. Jack didn't ask questions. He just stayed there, letting her breathe, letting her remember without force. After a long silence, she whispered, My family, they burned. Jack felt a cold shiver run down his spine. He understood. This wasn't just about being paralyzed. This was about loss, trauma, pain no one had ever healed. I'm sorry, he said. Zoreya didn't respond, but she didn't push him away either. She just sat there, eyes empty, but no longer silent. The next morning, Jack found her in the ship's main room. She was watching an old Earth movie on the screen, a comedy. Her head was tilted, like she didn't quite understand it, but she was trying. You like it? Jack asked. Zoreya looked at him. Why are they laughing so much? No one's dying. Jack chuckled. That's the point. She frowned. It feels strange. You'll get used to it, he said. She didn't reply. But she didn't stop the movie either. That evening, as Jack made tea, Zoreya suddenly asked, Why are you doing all this for me? He stopped stirring. Because you matter. No, I mean it. Why? She said. I can't help you. I can't fight. I can't even walk. Jack set the tea down and looked at her seriously. Maybe that's not what I need. Then what do you need? Jack smiled softly. Someone to talk to. Someone real. Someone who survived. Zoreya looked down at her hands. For the first time, she didn't see them as broken, just healing. That night, before sleeping, she whispered to herself, I'm still here. And somehow that meant everything. Jack always believed that silence was never truly empty. It was full of unspoken stories. Zoreya was proof of that. She was getting stronger, not in her body, but in her spirit. She still couldn't walk, but now she spoke short sentences. She asked small questions. She even laughed twice in 1 week. But there was something she never talked about, her past. Every time Jack asked about her life before, her eyes turned cold. Her voice vanished. So Jack stopped asking, but he didn't stop wondering. One day, while cleaning out an old storage box on the ship, Jack found something strange, an old military badge covered in dust. It was made of black stone and had a sharp mark carved in the middle, something like a claw. It didn't look human. When Zoreya passed by in her hover chair and saw it, she froze. Her hands tightened, her lips trembled. She stared at the badge for 10 seconds without blinking. Where? Did you find this? She asked in a low voice. In a box. Didn't know it meant anything, Jack said. Zoraia didn't answer. She turned and floated back to her room. But that night she knocked on Jack's door. I was once someone important, she said. I wasn't always like this. Jack set down his tools. You don't have to tell me. No, she interrupted. I want to. You should know. She told him everything. She was General Zorak's daughter. Not just any general, but the one who led the entire Zorak military into the Red Eclipse War. Zoraia was trained from childhood in tactics, leadership, and fighting. At just 14, she led her first mission. By 18, she was a known name across 3 planets. But then came the Fall, a surprise attack. Her ship was sabotaged. She crashed. She barely survived. Her legs were crushed. Her nerves were damaged. The doctors said she would never walk again. Her own people, her commanders, her friends abandoned her. To them, she was now a shame. That badge, she said, was mine. Jack listened without a word. He saw the pain in her eyes, not just from her body, but from the betrayal, from being forgotten. They erased me from all records, she whispered. It was like I never existed, like I died that day. You didn't die, Jack said gently. You're here. She looked at him with soft eyes. Do you really believe that? She asked. Jack nodded. I believe you're still a warrior, just one waiting to rise again. The next day, Jack started working on something new, a mechanical exosuit. Simple, at first, but strong, not to make her fight, just to help her stand. When she saw the pieces, she shook her head. Don't waste your time on me. It's not a waste, Jack replied. You're not broken. You just need a new way to move. Zoraia didn't speak. But that night when Jack was asleep, she rolled into the workshop. She looked at the half-finished suit and touched it. Her hand stayed there for a long time. The next morning, Jack noticed something. The suit's left leg piece had been moved. He smiled. So, someone's curious. Zoraia looked away. I was just checking. Check it again today. I'll, help you. I said I know, Jack said. But I believe in you. Even if you don't. That sentence hit her harder than a blast cannon. By the end of the week, she agreed to try. The first test was slow, painful, frustrating. Zoraia stood for 3 seconds, then fell into Jack's arms. She cried, but not because of pain, because she stood, even for just 3 seconds. Later that night, as Jack tucked the tools away, Zoraia sat beside him. You're strange, human, she said softly. Why's that? You treat me like I'm still someone. Jack smiled. That's because you are. Zoraia looked at him quietly, and for the first time, she didn't feel like a burden. She felt alive. Zoraia waited until the ship lights dimmed for night mode. Jack was asleep. The stars outside moved slowly past the window as the ship floated through space. She looked down at the exosuit lying quietly in the corner of the room. Its silver limbs, wires, and support pads seemed to call her name. Zoraia took a deep breath. She wheeled herself over and stared at the machine. Jack had spent so many hours building it, piece by piece, day by day. Every bolt, every wire, every curve was made with care. But fear still gripped her heart. What if I fall again? What if I look weak? Then she remembered something Jack once said. You don't have to be strong for them. Be strong for yourself. She reached out and began to attach the suit. It wasn't perfect. The pieces clicked in awkwardly. Her hands trembled. The back harness felt heavy. She stood for 5 seconds. Then 6. Her heart pounded like thunder. She took one slow step. Then another. And then her leg jerked, balance failed, and she crashed to the floor. Hard. Metal hit metal. Her head hit the wall. The room shook. Jack's door flew open. He ran in, half-dressed, eyes wide. Zoraia. She was curled on the floor, breathing hard. She looked up at him, embarrassed, angry, and in pain. I tried, she said. Jack ran to her, kneeling. "Are you hurt?" "No," she shouted. "I mean, yes, but not there." She pointed to her chest. "My heart hurts. Because I thought I could do it." Jack placed a hand on her shoulder. "You did do it. I fell. But you stood. You tried. That's more than you've done in years." She looked away. "I feel stupid." Jack helped her up carefully and placed her in her hover chair. "Then let's feel stupid together." The next day, Jack didn't speak of the fall. Instead, he adjusted the suit's weight system. He softened the boots, added extra support for her back. That evening, Zureya stood again, and this time, she didn't fall. She walked across the room, step by shaky step. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Jack clapped like a proud parent. Zureya laughed. Full and real. "Stop clapping," she said. "Can't help it," he smiled. "You just walked across my entire ship." She rolled her eyes but smiled. Later that night, Zureya sat in silence watching the stars. Jack sat beside her. She finally asked, "What's your story?" He blinked. "Me? Yes. You helped me so much." "Why?" Jack leaned back. "I was a soldier once, on Earth, in a war. I saw a lot of people die. Good people. Some of them couldn't walk. Others couldn't talk. But I learned something important." "What?" "Everyone has worth, even when others stop seeing it." Zureya was quiet. "I think that's why." "I couldn't leave you behind," Jack added. "Because I reminded you of someone?" "No. Because you reminded me of what hope looks like when it refuses to die." Zureya turned her head away quickly. She didn't want him to see her eyes, but he already had. The next morning, she walked through the ship's main hall without help for the first time. The lights reflected off her silver suit, as if she was glowing. She saw her reflection in the polished wall, and for the first time, she smiled at it. She didn't see a broken girl. She saw a survivor, a fighter, a spark that refused to burn out. That night, she recorded a voice log. Her voice was quiet, a little shaky, but clear. "This is Zureya. I stood today. I walked. Not far, not fast, but I moved. I remembered who I used to be. I'm not that same girl. I'm something new. I'm not just trying to live anymore. I'm trying to be alive." In the shadows, Jack smiled. He had never listened to her logs before, but tonight her voice gave him more strength than any victory ever had, and he knew. The real battle hadn't started yet, but Zureya was ready. The ship was quiet. Too quiet. Jack sat at the front control panel, sipping hot caf while watching the radar screen. Zureya was asleep in her cabin. After weeks of practice, she could now walk the full length of the ship in her exosuit without falling. She was changing. Not just her body, but her voice, her strength, her will. She laughed more. She even cooked for Jack once. Burned the food, but smiled the whole time. Jack thought peace had finally come. He was wrong. A sudden alarm blinked, red on the panel. Unauthorized ship approaching fast. Jack sat up straight. "What the—" He opened the external camera. A black Zorak vessel was heading straight for them. The symbol on the side was one he recognized. High Command Enforcers. Not traitors, not friends. He hit the intercom. "Zureya, wake up. We've got—" trouble. By the time Zureya reached the cockpit, the enemy ship had already sent a signal. A voice echoed through the speakers. Deep, cruel, and cold. "Human freighter. This is Commander Trask of Zorak High Order. You are harboring a fugitive." Jack narrowed his eyes. "Fugitive? You mean the girl you abandoned like garbage?" Zureya stood beside him, frozen. "That girl," the voice said, "was meant to vanish. Her presence is a stain on our honor. Return her immediately, or be destroyed." Zureya stepped forward. Her voice was quiet but strong. "I'm not yours anymore, Trask." Silence on the line. Then laughter. "Oh, she speaks now," Trask mocked. "Still using machines to crawl, little worm?" Zureya's hands tightened into fists. "You gave me away like I was trash. she said. Now you're afraid I'll stand again. You're not standing. You're hiding behind a human pet. Jack stood now too. Say one more word like that and I'll show you how dangerous pets can be. The line cut. Missile lock warning beeped. They were out of time. Zoreya, to the engine room, Jack ordered. Lock the doors, I'll hold them off. No, she said, you can't fight them, you're not ready. Zoreya stepped closer. I am ready. The enemy ship docked with a loud hiss and a metal clank. Zorak soldiers burst in, 4 of them, armed and armored. Jack fired first. 2 dropped instantly. The 3rd raised a plasma blade and charged. Zoreya moved. With surprising speed, she slammed into the attacker, using her suit's strength to crush him against the wall. The 4th soldier looked at her in shock. You? You were supposed to be paralyzed. Zoreya smiled coldly. Supposed to be. She dropped him with 1 punch. The ship went quiet again. Bodies lay still. Smoke drifted through the air. Jack looked at Zoreya, breathing hard. Guess you are ready. She wiped her brow and nodded. Then the speaker buzzed again. It was Trask, his voice now colder than space itself. You've made your choice. Very well. The council will hear of this betrayal. Zoreya stepped forward and spoke directly into the mic. No. They will hear my voice. For the first time in years. And then she ended the call. Later, as they cleaned up the mess, Jack looked at her and asked, Why now? Why fight back today? She looked out the window, her face serious. Because they came for me while I was still learning to walk. Jack smiled. And next time? Zoreya turned to him. Next time I'll be running. Zoreya stood alone in the training bay. The metal walls echoed every movement, every breath. The exosuit on her back hissed softly as the joints moved with her. It no longer felt heavy. It felt like part of her. A second skin. For weeks now she had trained, morning to night. Jack helped her at first, but now she practiced alone. Balancing, running, dodging, punching. She wasn't just walking anymore. She was fighting, and not like the scared girl from before. She was fighting like the warrior she used to be. Jack watched her from the ship's hallway, leaning against the doorframe. He didn't interrupt. He just smiled as she threw perfect strikes into the air, spinning with sharp, graceful moves. He remembered how she could barely lift herself. Now she could drop an enemy twice her size. She moved with purpose, precision, and something else. Pride. After her session, she joined Jack in the kitchen. Her face was sweaty, her hair was tied back, she looked exhausted, but there was fire in her eyes. I'm ready, she said. Jack raised an eyebrow. For what? To go back. To show the council what they tried to erase. Jack shook his head. They'll try to kill you again. I know, she said calmly. Then why go? Zoreya looked at him, her voice quiet but firm. Because I'm not scared anymore. That night, an emergency signal hit their ship. Another vessel was in distress, a human cargo freighter under attack by pirates in deep space. Jack looked at the coordinates. It's 2 hours from here. We can still make it. Zoreya placed her hand on his shoulder. Let's go. Jack looked at her, this time not as someone he had to protect, but as someone who stood beside him, an equal, a partner, maybe even more than that. When they arrived, the human ship was surrounded by 3 pirate crafts. They were tearing through its shields. Smoke trailed from the hull. The emergency beacon flashed like a heartbeat. Zoreya's eyes narrowed. I'll take the lead. Jack didn't argue. She launched from the airlock in her reinforced exosuit, flying toward the closest pirate ship. The first pirate didn't even see her coming. She landed with a crash, ripped the door off the ship, and slammed the pilot's head into the console. The ship spiraled out of control and exploded behind her while she leapt to the second one. Jack watched through the screens, stunned. Zoreya was more than fast. She was brutal, efficient, fearless. He had known she was strong, but he hadn't known she could be this deadly, and yet, her face stayed calm, focused, not angry, controlled. When the third pirate ship turned to flee, she landed on its hull, tore through its engine vents, and disabled it mid-flight. The remaining pirates surrendered. The human freighter sent a message. Who in the galaxy was that? Jack smiled proudly. Someone they thought was broken. When Zureya returned, smoke rose from her armor and her hands were cut and bruised. Jack ran to her. "You're hurt." "I'm fine," she said. "They're alive. That's what matters." Jack reached for her hand to help her step down, but she didn't take it. She stepped forward on her own. He looked at her, impressed. "Zureya." She looked back at him. "What? You saved lives today." She shrugged lightly. "So did you, when you saved mine." Their eyes locked. Something passed between them. Quiet, strong, undeniable. Jack stepped closer. "You don't have to be alone anymore," he said. Zureya tilted her head slightly. "I'm not," she whispered. Then gently, she placed her forehead against his. For a long moment, they stood there. Two warriors, both once broken. Now, whole, together. Zureya stood at the edge of the landing bay platform, staring out at the massive Zorak capital floating in space. The city ship was shaped like a coiled serpent, shining with gold and black lights. A place she once called home. A place that had forgotten her. A place that buried her name. And now, she was going back. Jack stood beside her, silent. He didn't ask if she was ready. He already knew the answer. She wasn't going to beg for her place. She was going to claim it. As their ship docked at the station, armed guards surrounded them instantly, red energy rifles aimed at their chests. "Do not resist," the lead guard barked. "Zureya of the Fallen House, you are under arrest for impersonating a citizen and entering restricted royal airspace." Zureya stepped forward, her exosuit gleaming in the hallway lights. "I am Zureya of House Zorak, daughter of High General Vorthan," she said, her voice firm. "And I am not here to impersonate. I am here to speak." The guards hesitated. "Take her to the High Council," one finally ordered. "The council can decide what to do with her." Jack and Zureya were escorted through long, tall halls filled with paintings of past rulers, none of whom remembered her. The walls were cold. The air, full of silence and judgment. At the top of the chamber steps sat the High Council of Zorak, 7 elders in dark robes, with faces as hard as steel. Trask, the commander who had once tried to erase her, stood to the side with a smug smile. "She returns wearing human armor, crawling back for attention," Trask said with a sneer. Jack clenched his fists. Zureya raised a hand to stop him. She walked to the center of the room and stood tall. She did not bow. She did not stutter. "I was born on this ship. I bled for this empire. I trained under your finest warriors. I led victories you still celebrate." "You were injured," a counselor interrupted. "You lost value." "No," she replied. "You lost your honor. I lost my legs, but not my mind, not my will. You abandoned me, not because I was useless, but because I was inconvenient." Gasps echoed in the chamber. Trask laughed. "You stand here because of a human, not because of your own kind." Zureya turned to Jack and nodded. "Yes. A human gave me back my voice, my hope, my fight." Then she turned back to the council. "But, make no mistake, I rebuilt myself. I stood again. I fought again. I chose to return, not to be accepted, but to challenge you." The room fell into complete silence. "Challenge?" the head counselor asked. "Explain." Zureya stepped forward. "Request the ancient right of combat. If I win, my name is restored, my record cleared, and every copy of the death report you wrote deleted." "That right is for warriors," another counselor said. "You are?" "I am a warrior," Zureya interrupted. Jack watched with pride burning in his chest. "She's not just a warrior," he said. "She's the best I've ever seen," the council whispered among themselves. Then the head counselor banged the staff of decision. "So be it." The next day, the arena was filled with thousands of Zorak nobles, soldiers, and citizens. Screens across ships and colonies tuned in. They were all expecting to see a girl in a machine begging for mercy. They were wrong. Zoreya entered the combat ring, alone. Her exosuit glowed faintly. She moved like liquid metal, silent, powerful, elegant. Trask himself had volunteered to fight her. He stood at the opposite end, towering in his own war armor, thinking this would be easy. The horn sounded. He charged. Zoreya didn't back away. She met him head-on, blocked his strike, twisted his arm, and threw him across the floor. Cheers erupted. She moved before he could rise, landing blow after blow, each one sharp, clean, precise. She didn't use brute force. She used control, timing, intelligence. She fought like someone who had once studied war for breakfast. Trask yelled in rage and threw a desperate punch. Zoreya ducked, stepped inside his defense, and knocked his helmet off. She stood over him, her hand ready to strike the final blow. "Do it," Trask spat. "Kill me." Zoreya stared at him, then lowered her hand. "No," she said. "I don't need to destroy you to win. You already destroyed yourself the day you gave me away." The arena was silent. Then a roar of applause broke out. Later in the council hall, her victory was recorded, her title restored, her image added back to the history records. She was no longer the forgotten girl. She was now Zoreya the Reclaimed. That night on the ship, Jack was preparing to leave the city behind. Zoreya walked in, no longer wearing the exosuit. She was using walking braces, less metal, more freedom. "You don't need the suit?" Jack asked. "I do," she said. "But not today." Jack smiled. "You showed the whole galaxy who you really are." Zoreya looked at him, a soft smile on her face. "And I want to show you something too." She stepped closer and kissed him. It was slow, warm, real. When they pulled apart, she whispered, "You didn't fix me, you just reminded me that I was never broken." They left the Zorak capital behind, together. No longer a broken girl and a kind human, but two souls who refused to let the galaxy decide their worth. And as the stars opened before them, Zoreya finally said the words that had been growing inside her since the beginning. "Jack, wherever we go next, take me with you." He grinned. "I wasn't going anywhere without you."